Good evening and welcome to Money Matters. My name is Kim Hatza and I'm a business attorney at Growth Counsel in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I focus my practice in the areas of technology, life sciences, and healthcare. Tonight we're continuing our special series on technology and life sciences leaders in the Delaware Valley. Before we get started, I want to remind our viewers that from time to time, financial issues relating to technology or life sciences matters or companies will be discussed on the show. These discussions are not and should not be viewed as financial advice. Moreover, since the show is pre-recorded and shown at a later time, the information may no longer be current. You should always speak with your financial advisor before entering into any financial transaction. I'm happy to have with me as my co-host this evening, Charlie Huntington. Charlie is the head of public relations at Life Sciences PA. Life Sciences PA is the voice of advancement for the life sciences in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Charlie, thanks for co-hosting.
Thanks, Kim, and it's a pleasure to be on the show with you. I've got a question for you. You have been busy this fall, and I wonder if you would bring our viewers up to speed with what's been keeping you busy.
Sure. It's actually been at this point for about 9 months, but which is a good thing considering under the circumstances that most of us working remotely most of the time. It's been a bit surprising actually, but we've had a number of transactions in the technology and life sciences space throughout the year. We had early part of the year. I had an M&A transaction. We sold a healthcare IT company. I just finished a Series C round of financing for a medical device company, and I am trying to close by the end of the year another sale of a healthcare IT company. And then there's yet another health IT company that's looking to sell, and that sale will probably not happen until the end of the first quarter of next year. So it's been busy. It's been a pleasant surprise, and we're looking for it to continue beyond this period.
Good for you, and congratulations to your firm.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, we have a terrific guest tonight, and I want to bring him out as soon as possible. But before I do, I just want to remind our viewers that if you have a question that you would like us to answer on a future show, watch this video to see how you do it.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says, Send us your questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, MONEY, -matters, MATTERS, TV.com.
It's my great pleasure to introduce our special guest this evening, Kevin Brown. Mr. Brown is the co-founder, president, and CEO of Ascensio, LLC, a technology company dedicated to helping organizations find and monetize value in intellectual property. He began his career at Purdue Pharma, where he held several positions over a 13-year period, including being a medicinal chemist from 2001 to 2006 and a process chemist from 2006 to 2008, before transitioning his focus to contracts, patent prosecution support, and research and development competitive intelligence from 2008 to 2014. Before leaving Purdue Pharma and prior to co-founding Ascensio, Kevin helped Purdue create Savant IP, a startup company focused on helping biopharmaceutical industry clients manage their intellectual assets for continuous identification and evaluation of potential licensing partners, where he served as the vice president and general manager. Kevin holds a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from Westchester University, a law degree from Widener University, and an MBA from St. Joseph's University. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Kevin, what first attracted you to a career in the life sciences?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Two parts. Really, my parents in the beginning. I was always in a scholars sort of program or something like that in the summer, built around the sciences. But it wasn't until my undergrad career when I first was introduced to organic chemistry and my first professor there that I started to develop a love for the medicinal chemistry and the sciences and things like that. And one thing led to another, and eventually I wound up in the life sciences. But that really was the crux of it. Was my undergrad career and that first professor I had that showed me a love of organic chemistry.
All right, so you were inspired.
Yeah.
How would you say your experience at Purdue Pharma and then subsequently at Savant IP helped prepare you to be an entrepreneur and the CEO of Essensio?
Now, that was an entrepreneurial experience. So when we started Savant IP, a lot of that activity was born around some technologies that my partner and I at Essensio Now, we developed inside when we were in Purdue. And those technologies weren't necessarily being used as much by the company as we would have liked, but fortuitous circumstances, we were, as a group, being let go. And what we wound up having to do was to sell ourselves and our ideas around this burgeoning technology inside of Purdue, and then get Purdue and their board to believe in it, which we were able to do. And they set us up as a separate company, Savant IP. And even though my official title was general manager and vice president of Savant IP, I was essentially operating as the CEO of the company, selling our products to internally to Purdue users, selling the idea of what we could do to produce boards, and also my partner and I selling the idea of what we were doing to some of the employees that we brought back in to Savant IP to help us run the company. So being the CEO of Savant IP essentially helped me to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah, it sounds like it was almost an exact, or near exact trial run for what you were ultimately doing when you set up Essensio.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most challenging aspect of your role as CEO of Essensio?
I would say the constant selling, right? So you have to, as a CEO, you're constantly selling yourself. You're constantly selling your ideas. You're constantly selling your products and the company, but you're doing it externally and internally. Right? So I'm constantly selling my ideas even to the people that work with me and work for me. You can't just sort of direct and expect everyone to understand and believe in and want to do the things that you'd like them to do, even though you understand it and you think everyone else should understand exactly what you're talking about. It's the constant selling that, for me, has been the most challenging aspect.
Yeah, I guess, if you're really trained as a scientist, and also, well, as a business person too, because of both your MBA and I would say your law degree, but still, you're at your heart, you were a scientist at first, so have to transition to be selling all the time. I can absolutely understand that would be challenging.
Sure.
Would you say there are one or more aspects of your job that came as a complete surprise to you?
I wouldn't say it was necessarily a surprise, but I think one of the things that my partner and I we took for granted was access to capital. We were at Savant IP, what was essentially a startup company, but we didn't own it. So we could very easily go to our Purdue's board and ask them for $5 million they could give it to us. So, when we left, we thought it would be, just as easy, even though I wasn't completely naive. So I knew that raising money was difficult. I just didn't understand how difficult it really, really was.
Charlie?
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Can you tell us about Ascensio, please?
Yeah, Ascensio at its core is a company that helps organizations use intellectual property to its fullest potential. And our focus area is the biopharmaceutical industry. But at our core, that's what we do, help organizations really generate the most strategic value and monetizable value from their IP or from the intellectual property of others.
So why did you guys get into this business?
Well, we saw at Purdue and at other companies that organizations, even though IP, everyone knows it's valuable. They say it's valuable. It's worth a lot. We spend a lot of money on it. But one of the things that we found out very quickly in some of the statistical research that we've done and that we did in the past when we started the company was that greater than 95% of all biopharmaceutical industry patents and applications never produce value in the form of marketable products or other related revenue for companies. And we saw that as being an extreme amount of waste that the industry is comfortable with because it generates so much revenue, but we thought we could help. And at our core, that's what we try to do.
So when you look at the company's areas of focus, will you cover those in more detail for us?
Yeah, so in terms of our focus areas, we really sell to, of course, IP attorneys. We sell to researchers, medicinal chemists specifically, and licensing and business development professionals. So each one of those groups, they have a use for IP, each one differently, but still, it's still a general understanding of how each can use IP to their fullest potential or to its fullest potential to drive answers to their strategic business question.
All right. And do you have proprietary IP at this point?
Oh, yes, we do. Some of it came during our time at Purdue, and we were able to get access to that as well. And we've also developed our own IP since we've launched the company in 2017. Right now, we have 2 issued patents and 9 pending applications with many more coming.
That's great. So at what stage of development is the company's technology?
So we've officially productized actually this month. We started out as a technology-enabled consulting company. So this conversation with you now is literally right on time because we just launched our first product. It's called IP Geoscape. It's a molecular landscaping tool with an IP focus. We literally started selling the product this month. So I'm happy to say we are a product company.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is there anything about your proprietary IP and its application to companies in the biopharmaceutical industry that would require FDA approval, Kevin?
No, nothing that we have or that we do would require FDA approval, but we work on projects for customers that are seeking FDA approval. So we're supporting it, but there's nothing inherent to our tech or our product that will require FDA approval.
Okay, and where would you see uses for your technology that might not meet the eye to the person who's just beginning to look at this?
So the tech, even though it has an IP focus, we really, from a molecular landscaping standpoint, can cross the barriers of industry. So our focus, of course, is the biopharmaceutical industry and helping organizations and customers maximize the value of their IP or the value of third-party IP to themselves. But we've gotten incoming from agriculture, from animal health, from the energy sector, material sciences, any molecular-based industry. So I would say, on the surface, we look like we have a biopharmaceutical industry focus, which we do. That's what we know. But very easily, we can transition to other industry verticals.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kevin, just keeping on what you and Charlie were just talking about, and knowing that all of our viewers are not scientists, can you talk a little bit about what molecular landscaping actually is? Is there a way to put that in a layperson's terms?
Well, maybe even taking it a level up. So the molecular landscaping tool, which is the product that we just launched, it basically allows one to understand at the level of the individual molecule what's going on from an IP perspective in a particular area of interest. But from a layperson's perspective, if you wanted to understand what Essentio does, whether it's molecular landscaping or claims-based landscaping and patents or what have you, we have a way of taking patents in various areas and deconstructing them, really reducing them to their lowest common denominator or their most basic sort of output. And we do that using math and algorithms. And what that allows us to do is then to compare patents one to another. And once we do that, we can find certain relationships that can be monetizable for companies through the use of their patents and other third-party patents.
Okay, that's interesting. What's your plan for growing the company? Are you going to grow it organically? Are you going to bring in investors? Are you going to partner with a larger company that might be in the same industry? What's your thinking at this point in terms of growing the company?
Yeah, good question. So whatever comes first. No, we'll probably grow the company through our channel partner. So we see, because of the products that we sell and what we can do in the organizations that we sell to, that Essentio has a very unique opportunity to be able to grow the company through direct channel partners and even some indirect channel partners, some that you wouldn't necessarily expect. We expect our revenues and sales to mostly by 2023 to be coming through channel partners, whether they're selling our products or whether our products are actually integrated into their products. We are looking for investment right now. We have a round that's open. We're doing a raise right now. But at the end of the day, we see Essentio's growth coming through channel partners, and we even see potentially an exit would be with a strategic or even a competitor at some point in the future.
Okay, so staying on that point for a second, are there competitive products currently in your industry, or is your product unique and unchallenged at the moment?
So the product right now, IP Geoscape, which is actually what you see on the canvas behind me, is unique and unchallenged, right? There's nothing like it on the market. There's nothing that's a molecular landscaping tool with an IP focus that's data agnostic that can consume data from any source where it's available. So that's unique. What I would tell you, though, is what we do from an IP strategy perspective. It can be argued that maybe your law firm can do that, right? Helping you use IP to its fullest potential. So I would say that Essentio has competitors in the sense of using IP to its fullest potential and IP strategy, but our products themselves right now, nothing like it exists.
Okay, so then staying on that again a little bit further, what is it about your technology? What distinguishes your technology, its applications and effectiveness from other things that are out there in your space?
Yeah, it's the ability to have an intellectual property understanding, and this is with whatever question is being asked, whatever strategic question the organization is asking. At Essentio, we believe there's an intellectual property answer for every question, and so we've created a suite of products that layer from an IP perspective, layer on top of any other data set, so we can bring in any data into that molecular landscape or what have you, whatever product that we're offering to the customer, and the customer can consume any data through an intellectual property lens. So that's the thing that really makes Essentio and its products unique. For us, intellectual property isn't necessarily the object of the analysis, it's the subject, it's the lens through which we view and answer all questions.
Okay. What are the biggest barriers to entry into your industry or industries of focus?
Biggest barriers right now, at least for us, from do you mean from a selling perspective or from a technology perspective and competitors and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, could be both,
could be both. Yeah. So selling really to customers is there, we have two hurdles, right? So it's two hurdles. It's getting them to understand and agree to the fact that they're not using intellectual property to its fullest potential. Most organizations think they are, until you explain to them that they're not. And then the second piece is really getting them to also agree to use a product that's fairly new and unique in answering and helping them with that issue of using intellectual property to its fullest potential. So it's a double hurdle for us from a barrier perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would success look like for Ascensio?
Of course, success for Ascensio would eventually be, the product, the IP Geoscape product doing very well, a potential exit, whether that's some sort of IPO or a merger or sale. But there's another side to that equation for us, and it's more of a public interest perspective. And it's really built around the fact that we see so much waste. I spoke to you about waste from an intellectual property perspective, and that waste really, in many cases, in our opinion, goes to some of the overall cost of drugs and products that are currently on the market. We can help organizations. If an organization can eventually say, using Ascensio's tools, we were able to recoup X number of R&D dollars that were spent because we were able to find value generating and monetizable opportunities for intellectual property of ours that was going into the trash can. I think that may translate to society as large. So that would also be success for Ascensio.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin, how important are the life science resources of the Philadelphia region to the growth and success of Ascensio?
They're very important. It's funny, as an employee at a pharmaceutical company, and even living in this city for many years, you don't realize what's available to you until you become an entrepreneur. And now, as the veil was lifted in 2017, when I went and started the company, I began to see all the resources that are available in the life science, and that's on the investment side, the startup community here. There are so many different organizations that are helpful in this city from a life sciences perspective that I was completely unaware of, but I'm very happy that I know of now.
Do any of those organizations stick out in your mind that you'd like to highlight?
Oh, sure. One, for example, is Ben Franklin Technologies. We're a Prima partner of Ben Franklin. They're very active on the investment side, but also on the educational side. I think that is one organization that I would call out immediately, at least from a life sciences perspective. And you have Life Sciences PA. There's so many groups and organizations that I could call out. They're all over the place.
Our viewers may or may not know that Ben Franklin Technology Partners was actually started with tobacco settlement money some 20 years ago. So it's got it's got the public's best interest at heart, and it was actually brought to life with hopes that investments in young upstart companies would help solve some of the health crises down the road, and it's been able to do just that. So congratulations for being a part of that ecosystem.
Yeah.
How does our region, Kevin, compare to other life science hubs in the countries like San Francisco, San Diego, Research Triangle Park, and maybe Cambridge?
Yeah. So Philadelphia has a reputation of being blue collar, and we're fighters and everything like that. But I will tell you, from my perspective and what I've seen from a growth perspective in the life sciences and startup community here in Philly, we're doing an excellent job. Things are taking off here. There are so many companies, the investment, especially on the biotech side, the genomics side. There's so much happening here in the city. Buildings are being built, labs are being created. There's just a lot happening here in and around the area. I can think of one example, for example, the PA Biotechnology Center in Horsham. We're friends with them as well. There's so much activity from a life sciences perspective here in Philadelphia.
I'm just curious if you have been approached, or if you would be receptive if a foreign country came to you and asked for this technology. Is that a conversation which you've had or which you would be open to, or is this pretty much being used to keep not only this region but this country insulated from others? Because as you say, they can probably, if they know where to look, they can probably figure out some of the pieces and parts, just nobody's packaged it like you guys have before, right?
Sure. Well, we have clients that are outside of the U.S., right? So there's the piece of our company that's really built around value generation and bringing organizations together. So we're very happy to take a U.S. company that may not necessarily know that their IP has some strategic value to a company, a biopharmaceutical company in France or in Australia, and we can bring the two of them together, and there's a new product opportunity there that neither one knew existed because of the relationship between their intellectual property, respectively. So we will do that, and we do have clients that exist outside the U.S.
It's great. Thank you. I know many of the CEOs of startup companies who've been guests on the show, they acquired their company's IP from local universities and pharma companies or med device companies. Was that necessary for Ascensio?
Yeah. So we developed, at least in its infancy, one of our products inside of Purdue, and because of that, we had to figure out a way to get the IP associated with that. And I'm happy to say we were able to do that and worked out something to do. But beyond that, no, everything that we've done since leaving has really been internal and internally generated.
Okay, we have about 2 minutes, so maybe 1 minute for this question.
Sure.
Kevin, what advice do you have for folks who've been displaced by either technology or life sciences companies in the Philadelphia region? We're trying to decide whether to develop a company around the technology with which they are familiar.
I would say in the shortest and the highest level as possible is just start, just jump. You have to. There's no perfect time. I was speaking honestly, scared out of my mind when I left Purdue and the paycheck and the health insurance and everything else that went with it. And so were some of the people around me, i.e. my family. But you sort of have to take that jump and believe in what you're doing. You were given that idea for a reason. I believe that truly, and you have to move with it. And that's what I would say.
Okay, well, listen, that was a terrific show. I think we could go another 30 minutes, but I'd like to thank our special guest this evening, Kevin Brown, the CEO of Ascensio. Charlie, thank you very much for co-hosting. The next guest on Money Matters TV is David Jansen, the founder of Catalyst Key, and that's a medical device company. So for all of our viewers, thank you for watching this evening, and we will see you again next time.